The door opens at 9:23 hours, April 22nd, 1972, prisoner exchange facility, Quang Tri province. 14 North Vietnamese women POWs being transferred from South Vietnamese custody to American processing before repatriation. Standard procedure, standard exchange protocols, standard transport arrangements. Except what happens when the transport arrives and US Marine Sergeant James Wilson, age 26, opens the transport door to help the women out. Except what happens when the first woman, Nguyen Thi Lan, age 23, freezes completely in the doorway, not moving, not speaking, just staring at Wilson with an expression somewhere between confusion and wonder. Except what happens when she finally speaks, her voice barely a whisper in Vietnamese that the interpreter translates. "He smells like chocolate." Wilson has no idea what to make of this reaction. He's just standing there offering his hand to help her down from the transport. And she's frozen, staring at him, talking about chocolate. He looks at the interpreter, an older Vietnamese woman with decades of experience, who seems equally confused by this response. This is the story of April 22nd, 1972, when 14 Vietnamese women, POWs, encountered American soldiers for the first time and couldn't stop talking about how Americans smell. Not about weapons or size or uniforms or tactics, about smell, about scents they'd never encountered before, about Americans smelling like chocolate and vanilla and things that they couldn't identify but found impossibly pleasant. After months in captivity with no hygiene facilities and no soap and nothing clean. How the simplest sensory experience, smell, destroyed more propaganda than any argument could. How smelling good became proof of American humanity. How scent taught more about cultural difference and prisoner treatment than any words could convey. If you want stories about the unexpected way a propaganda collapses, where sensory experience contradicts systematic lies and pleasant smells prove humanity, hit subscribe. Because what happens when these 14 women encounter Americans who smell like chocolate and vanilla reveals everything about what they expected versus what they experienced. About enemies who smell clean when propaganda promised they'd smell like death. About cultural differences in hygiene and grooming creating profound impressions. About the power of unexpected sensory experiences to shatter carefully constructed beliefs. About how Americans being themselves, clean, groomed, smelling like the products they use, contradicts years of indoctrination through the most basic human sense. What they expected Americans to smell like before. Understanding the women's reactions, you need to understand what they were taught to expect, what propaganda promised about American scent, what years of indoctrination prepared them to smell when they encountered enemy soldiers. The senior woman among the prisoners, Thi Hoa, age 29, former NVA political officer, can recite the propaganda lessons perfectly. She spent years teaching political education to soldiers, including specific descriptions of American physical characteristics designed to dehumanize the enemy and make them seem repulsive rather than human. Political education session number 234, standard curriculum taught throughout NVA. Americans are physically disgusting with poor hygiene standards. Capitalist culture produces slovenly personal habits. Americans don't bathe regularly like Vietnamese people do. They use chemical products instead of proper washing, which doesn't actually clean them. They smell of body odor, sweat, and decay. American soldiers in tropical climate become especially foul-smelling due to heat, poor hygiene practices, and spiritual corruption manifesting as physical repulsiveness. Revolutionary soldiers will recognize Americans by their offensive smell before seeing them. American stench is so distinctive that you can identify their presence from significant distance. This was propaganda, systematic dehumanization through disgust response. Making Americans seem physically repulsive, so soldiers would hate them viscerally, not just ideologically. So encountering Americans would trigger disgust rather than recognition of shared humanity. So Vietnamese soldiers would see Americans as contaminated, corrupted, fundamentally different from and inferior to Vietnamese. Propaganda designed to create visceral rejection of enemy through claimed physical repulsiveness. Hoa believed this completely. She taught it effectively. She prepared soldiers for the supposedly disgusting reality of American physical presence. She described in vivid detail how Americans would smell like rot, like death, like spiritual corruption made manifest in physical stench. She convinced hundreds of soldiers that Americans were physically revolting, that their smell would confirm their inhumanities, that encountering American stench would prove propaganda truth. She taught lies, systematic lies designed to dehumanize, but she believed them completely because she'd never met Americans to test those claims against reality. She taught what she was taught, believed what she was told, spread propaganda without questioning because questioning was impossible and dangerous. Now she's about to encounter actual Americans. Now propaganda meets reality. Now taught expectations collide with sensory experience. Now everything she taught, everything she believed is about to be tested against the most basic human sense. Smell. Around 2-3 hours. The door opens and everything changes. The transport door opens. Morning sunlight floods in. Wilson stands in the doorway offering his hand to help the first woman down, standard courtesy. Professional assistance. Nothing as unusual from American perspective. But from Lan's perspective, a 23-year-old former NVA nurse who spent 8 months in South Vietnamese POW camps with no hygiene facilities, no soap, no clean water, living in her own filth and others' filth, and the accumulated stench of unwashed bodies and human waste and despair. Wilson's appearance in that doorway is shocking in ways she can't immediately process. He's clean, visibly, obviously clean. His uniform is fresh, laundered recently, pressed carefully, showing no stains or dirt or signs of field conditions. His face is shaved smooth. His hair is cut short and neat. His boots are polished. Everything about his appearance screams recent bathing and careful grooming and meticulous personal maintenance. But more than his appearance, more than his visual cleanliness, is his smell. Lan is standing 3 feet from Wilson, close enough that his scent reaches her clearly despite 8 months of olfactory adaptation to prison stench. And he smells good, really good, impossibly good. He smells clean like soap and shampoo and laundry detergent. But beyond clean, he smells sweet, like chocolate, or vanilla, or both. Some sweet, pleasant scent mixing with clean soap smell, creating overall impression of pleasantness, of something good, of something completely opposite from what propaganda promised. Propaganda said Americans smell like death and decay and rot. Wilson smells like chocolate and vanilla and clean laundry. The cognitive dissonance is so severe that Lan freezes completely, unable to process sensory input that contradicts years of teaching so fundamentally. She stands in the doorway staring at Wilson, her brain trying to reconcile American soldier with smells really good and failing to make those two facts coexist within her propaganda-constructed understanding of reality. She whispers in Vietnamese without thinking, without filtering, just processing aloud. He smells like chocolate. The interpreter translates this for Wilson, who looks completely baffled. He's a Marine sergeant standing in tropical heat trying to help prisoners out of a transport truck, and one of them is frozen in the doorway talking about chocolate. He has no context for understanding this reaction. He doesn't know about the propaganda she was taught, doesn't know she expected him to smell disgusting, doesn't know that his actual scent, clean American man who showered this morning, used soap and shampoo, applied deodorant, maybe used aftershave or cologne, wearing freshly laundered uniform, is contradicting her entire understanding of American physical nature. Wilson just responds practically, "Ma'am, do you need a help down? The step is high. I can help if you'd like." Lan stares at his offered hand, clean fingernails. No dirt under nails like she has. No grime on skin like she has. Hand that obviously was washed recently with soap. Hand belonging to person who bathes regularly and maintains hygiene. hand of someone who smells like chocolate instead of like the rot she was promised. She takes his hand because she needs help down the high step, and when she touches him, first physical contact with an American, first time touching enemy soldier, another sensory shock hits. His hand is clean. Not just visually clean, but actually clean, feeling clean. The texture of recently washed skin that isn't covered in accumulated grime and oil. His hand feels as clean as it looks and smells. Wilson helps her down carefully, professionally, then releases her hand and steps back to help the next woman. Standard courtesy, professional behaviour. No idea that he just shattered years of propaganda through 3 seconds of hand-to-hand contact and close-range olfactory experience. Lan stands beside the transport in shock while the second woman, Pham Thi Mai, age 25, approaches the doorway and has an identical reaction, breathing, daring, smelling, processing, unable to reconcile expectation with experience. Mai whispers to Lan in Vietnamese as she's helped down by another Marine. They smell so good. They smell really good. Why do they smell good? Propaganda said they smell terrible. Or said they smell like death. But they smell sweet, clean, pleasant. Why did propaganda lie about something you can smell? Something so obvious, something impossible to hide? Lan has no answer. She's still processing her own confusion, still trying to understand how Americans can smell like chocolate when she was taught for years that Americans smell like corpses, still attempting to reconcile sensory reality with propaganda promises, still failing to make them fit together because they contradict too fundamentally. 14 women exit the transport. 14 women encounter Americans for the first time. 14 women experience the same shock. 14 women process the same contradiction. Americans smell good, clean, pleasant, sweet. Nothing like propaganda promised. Everything backwards. Everything wrong according to teaching, but right according to experience. Everything confusing. Everything requiring complete recalibration of expectations. Everything changing, because Americans smell like chocolate instead of death. The processing begins and the questions start. The women are directed to a processing facility, a clean building with fans running, chairs arranged in rows, American administrative personnel waiting to conduct standard prisoner exchange documentation. As the women enter the building, they pass close to multiple American soldiers, each encounter reinforcing the same sensory message: Americans smell good, clean, pleasant, nothing like propaganda promised. Staff Sergeant David Chen, age 28, administrative specialist, approaches with clipboards and forms. He smiles politely and speaks through the interpreter. "Good morning, ladies. We're going to process your paperwork for repatriation. This should take about 2 hours total. We'll collect basic information: name, rank, date of capture, health status. Then you'll receive medical screening and preparation for transport home. Is everyone ready to begin?" Professional courtesy, standard procedure. Except the women aren't listening to his words, they're staring at him. Specifically, they're staring while obviously smelling the air around him. Chen is clean-shaven, freshly showered, wearing a uniform that was laundered yesterday. He used soap this morning. He used shampoo. He brushed his teeth with mint toothpaste. He used deodorant. He might have used aftershave. He doesn't remember. It's such automatic routine that he doesn't think about it anymore. He smells like a normal American soldier maintaining normal hygiene standards. Clean and pleasant and completely unremarkable from an American perspective. From Vietnamese women's perspective, women who haven't had soap in 8 months, haven't had shampoo ever, too expensive for most Vietnamese, haven't had deodorant ever, not common in Vietnamese culture, haven't had clean water for bathing in months, Chen smells extraordinary. He smells impossibly clean and pleasant. He smells like things they can't quite identify but find pleasant. He smells like confirmation that propaganda lied about American physical characteristics. Hoa, the former political officer who taught the propaganda about American stench, speaks up in Vietnamese, her voice showing her confusion. Why do Americans smell like this? Like sweet things, like pleasant things. We were taught Americans smell terrible due to poor hygiene and spiritual corruption, but they smell clean, very clean, and sweet. Why does everyone smell sweet? Is the perfume? Cologne? What is this smell? The interpreter translates for Chen, who looks confused by the question. Smell? I guess we smell like soap and shampoo? We shower every day, use deodorant, normal hygiene. Is that what you mean? The interpreter conveys this. The women stare. Shower every day? Lan repeats in disbelief. Every day? With soap? All Americans do this. Chen nods, still confused about why this is significant. Yes, ma'am, standard hygiene. We shower daily, use soap and shampoo, use deodorant. It's required by military regulations, actually. Maintaining personal hygiene is part of military discipline. Is there a problem? The women look at each other, processing this information. Americans shower every day with soap as military requirement. Americans use products they have never heard of, deodorant, aftershave, cologne as normal routine. Americans maintain hygiene standards so high that they smell clean and pleasant constantly. Americans treat daily bathing with soap as basic minimum rather than luxury. Everything propaganda taught about American hygiene is backwards. Americans aren't slovenly with poor hygiene. Americans are meticulous about hygiene to a degree Vietnamese women have never experienced. Americans smell good because Americans maintain hygiene standards that exceed anything these women knew was possible. Mai speaks quietly. We haven't had soap in 8 months. We haven't bathed with clean water in 8 months. We smell terrible. We know we smell terrible. We can smell ourselves. And then Americans smell like chocolate and vanilla and clean things. The contrast is, we're the ones who smell bad, not Americans. Everything propaganda taught is backwards. We're smelling ourselves and smelling Americans, learning that propaganda lied about who maintains hygiene and who doesn't. This is humiliating and enlightening and confusing all at once. Chen's expression shifts as understanding dawns. These women have been held without hygiene facilities. They are comparing their condition after 8 months without soap to Americans who shower daily. They're learning through olfactory contrast that their captivity conditions were terrible while American standards are high. They're discovering propaganda lied by experiencing the sensory difference between prisoner with no hygiene access and soldiers maintaining military hygiene standards. He speaks gently. You'll have access to showers here. Hot water, soap, shampoo, clean towels. After processing, you'll be able to bathe. We have clean clothes for you. You'll be able to get clean before repatriation. You deserve proper hygiene facilities. They should have been provided during captivity but weren't. We're providing them now. The women's eyes fill with tears at these words. The promise of hot water and soap, the promise of feeling clean, the promise of not smelling like accumulated months of filth, the promise delivered by Americans who smell like chocolate, offering soap to enemy prisoners who smell like desperation. The medical screening and the cultural revelation. Navy Corpsman Michael Torres, age 24, begins medical screening with professional thoroughness. As he examines the first woman, checking vital signs and assessing overall health, he notices something that the women have been too embarrassed to mention. They clearly haven't had access to basic hygiene facilities for extended period. Their skin shows signs of inability to wash. Their hair is matted. They smell of long-term uncleanliness. These are prisoners who've been denied basic necessities. But more than their physical condition, Torres notices their reactions to him. They're staring at him, not with hostility or fear, with fascination, with confusion, with expressions that suggest they're processing something unexpected about his physical presence. Through the interpreter, he asked Lan during her examination, "Have you had access to bathing facilities during captivity?" Lan shakes her head. No clean water for bathing, no soap. We washed with dirty water when possible, but not often. Mostly we just stayed dirty. For 8 months we stayed dirty. We smelled bad. We know we smell bad, but we had no choice, no facilities, no soap, no way to get clean. Torres documents this carefully, evidence of inadequate prisoner conditions. Then he asks gently, "Is there something about American soldiers that surprises you? You all seem... I don't know how to say this. You seem surprised by something about us. Can you tell me what?" Lan hesitates, embarrassed, then speaks honestly. "You smell good. All Americans smell good. Clean and sweet and pleasant. We were taught Americans have poor hygiene and smell terrible. We expected disgusting smell. But you smell like chocolate, like vanilla, like clean things, like things we've never smelled before but find very pleasant. We are confused because reality contradicts teaching. We are embarrassed because we smell bad and you smell good, and the contrast teaches us that propaganda lied about American hygiene, while our captors denied us hygiene. Everything is backwards from what we were taught." Torres processes this information with growing understanding of the propaganda these women were taught, and the sensory evidence contradicting it. We shower daily with soap and shampoo. We use deodorant, a product that prevents body odor. Some men use aftershave or cologne, scented products applied to skin. American military requires daily hygiene as part of discipline. Clean soldiers are healthy soldiers. Personal hygiene is taken very seriously. It's not special, it's standard, it's minimum requirement for military service. He continues gently. The chocolate and vanilla smell you're noticing might be from grooming products. Shampoos and soaps and deodorants often have sweet scents: vanilla, coconut, citrus, various fragrances designed to smell pleasant. We use them so routinely that we don't notice the scent anymore. But if you haven't been around those products before, the smell would be very noticeable. That's what you're experiencing. American grooming product scents that are normal for us, but new for you. Lan absorbs this explanation, her understanding shifting. Americans don't naturally smell like chocolate. Americans smell like products they use for hygiene. Products that smell sweet and pleasant. Products we've never used because they're expensive or unavailable. Products that American military requires all soldiers to use daily. We're smelling American hygiene culture, not American natural smell. Torres nods. Exactly. We're smelling like soap and shampoo and deodorant and whatever scented products we happen to use. It's cultural. American culture emphasizes heavy use of hygiene and grooming products. Other cultures have different approaches. Vietnamese culture traditionally emphasizes bathing but might not use the same products or scents. Neither approach is wrong, they're just different cultural practices. But American military requires specific hygiene standards, so all American soldiers follow same practices and use similar products. That's what you're smelling, American military hygiene culture. Another woman, Thi Hoa, age 27, speaks up during her examination. The propaganda said Americans are slovenly with poor hygiene, said Americans don't bathe regularly, said American culture produces disgusting physical characteristics. Reality is, Americans have the highest hygiene standards we've ever encountered. Americans smell cleaner than anyone we've ever met. Americans maintain hygiene even in war conditions. Everything propaganda taught is opposite of truth. Why? Why lie about something so easy to verify once you meet Americans? Torres considers this question seriously. Propaganda lies to dehumanize enemies. If you believe Americans are physically disgusting, it's easier to hate us and easier to kill us. If you believe we're dirty and diseased and repulsive, you see us as less human and less deserving of consideration. Propaganda often attacks enemy physical characteristics to make them seem inferior. Claims about smell, appearance, hygiene, anything that can trigger disgust response. Disgust makes dehumanization easier. But lies about physical characteristics fail immediately once you meet actual people who don't match the propaganda description. You smell Americans being clean. That contradicts propaganda claims. Physical evidence defeats physical lies. Your senses teach you truth that contradicts propaganda. Quang processes this while tears form. So propaganda taught us to expect disgusting smell, so we'd hate you. But you smell good, which proves propaganda lied. And the contrast between how we smell after 8 months without soap and how you smell after showering this morning teaches us that our captivity conditions were terrible, while American standards are high. We learn through smell who maintains hygiene and who denies prisoners hygiene. We learn through scent who follows humane standards and who violates them. Smell teaches truth propaganda tried to hide. Torres nods slowly. I'm sorry you were denied basic hygiene facilities during captivity. You deserved better treatment. Geneva Conventions require providing hygiene facilities to prisoners. Your captors violated that requirement. We're providing facilities now, not as special favour but as legal requirement. After processing, you'll be able to shower with soap and shampoo. You'll receive clean clothes, or you'll be able to feel clean before going home. That's minimum standard you should have received all along. The women cry quietly, understanding that Americans providing soap and showers is just following law while their captors denying them was violating law. Understanding that Americans smelling like chocolate teaches truth about who follows humane standards. Understanding that their own smell teaches truth about how they were treated. Understanding everything through scent, through the most basic physical sense, revealing character through contrast. The shower scene, sensory transformation. After medical screening and processing, the women are escorted to shower facilities by American female personnel. Navy Petty Officer Sarah Martinez, age 26, explains the facilities through the interpreter. These are private shower stalls with hot water. Here's soap, shampoo, conditioner if you want it. Here are towels. Use as many as you need. Take as much time as you need. No rush. Just get clean. Feel human again. You deserve dignity and cleanliness. The women enter the shower area and encounter American hygiene products for the first time. Bottles of shampoo with labels they can't read but scents they can smell. Coconut, vanilla, citrus, floral scents. Bars of soap with similar fragrances. Conditioner. Body wash. Products they've heard of vaguely but never used. Products that Americans use routinely but seem exotic and luxurious to Vietnamese women from rural backgrounds who never had access to such things even before captivity. Lan picks up a bottle of shampoo and opens it to smell. The scent is sweet, vanilla and something else, maybe coconut. She realizes immediately that this is what Americans smell like. This is the chocolate vanilla scent that confused her. Not natural smell, product smell, the smell of American hygiene culture bottled and labelled and provided as routine amenity. She steps into the shower and turns on the water. Hot water flows immediately. Not lukewarm, genuinely hot, almost too hot, adjustable to comfortable temperature. Water pressure is strong, water is clean, no sediment, no discoloration, just clear, clean water running hot and plentiful. She stands under it, feeling 8 months of accumulated filth beginning to wash away. Then she uses the soap, lathers it in her hands and applies it to her skin, and actually gets clean for the first time in 8 months. Dirt washing away, oil washing away. Accumulated grime of months in captivity flowing down the drain. Her skin emerging clean underneath. Gint, she'd almost forgotten existed, all that filth. Then shampoo. She pours some into her hand, more than necessary because she doesn't know how much to use, has never used bottle shampoo before. The sweet vanilla coconut scent fills the shower stall as she works it through her matted hair. It lathers abundantly. It makes her hair feel slippery and clean. It smells exactly like American smell. She's applying the same products Americans use. She's beginning to smell like American smell. She's experiencing American hygiene culture directly through products that create the characteristic American scent. She washes and rinses and washes again, unable to believe how clean she's getting. Unable to process having unlimited hot water and soap and shampoo after 8 months with none of those things. She cries while washing, overwhelmed by the hot water and soap and the simple dignity of being clean. She cries while smelling like vanilla coconut shampoo, while experiencing what Americans experience daily, while learning through direct sensory experience that American hygiene standards are high, because Americans value cleanliness enough to maintain it even in war conditions. Similar scenes play out in other shower stalls. Women crying while washing, women overwhelmed by hot water and soap, women experiencing products they have never used before, women beginning to smell like Americans smell through using American hygiene products, women learning through direct physical experience what American culture values and maintains, women transformed from filthy prisoners who smell of desperation into clean women who smell like vanilla and coconut, and whatever scented products they chose to use. After showers, the women emerge clean for the first time in months. Martinez provides clean clothes, simple but appropriate, comfortable and modest. The women dress in clean clothes, their bodies clean, their hair clean and drying, their skin smelling like the soap and shampoo they just used. Mai smells her own arm experimentally and starts laughing through tears. I smell like Americans now. I smell like chocolate and vanilla. I smell clean and sweet and pleasant. I used American products and now I smell American. This is bizarre and wonderful and proves everything propaganda said was lies. Americans smell good because Americans use products that smell good and maintain hygiene that keeps them clean. We smell good now for same reason. Scent isn't natural, it's cultural. It's about practices and products and priorities. Americans prioritize hygiene enough to maintain it even in war. That's what we learned through smell. That's what shampoo taught us. And the departure and the truth they carry. 24 hours later, the women are ready for repatriation. They're clean, healthy, fed, and thoroughly documented. They're also profoundly changed by sensory experiences that contradicted everything propaganda taught them about American physical characteristics. Martinez walks them to the transport for departure. Before they board, Hoa, the former political officer who taught propaganda about American stench, speaks to Martinez through the interpreter. Thank you for soap and shampoo. Thank you for hot water and clean towels. Thank you for products that smell like vanilla and chocolate. Thank you for teaching us through scent that propaganda lied about American hygiene and culture. We learned more from smelling Americans and then smelling ourselves after using American products than we learned from years of political education. Sensory experience defeats propaganda. Smell teaches truth. We're carrying that truth home. We'll tell others. We'll testify that Americans smell clean because Americans maintain hygiene. We'll spread truth that propaganda lied about physical characteristics. Thank you for everything. Martinez nods, understanding the profound nature of what these women experienced. You deserve clean water and soap all along. You deserved hygiene facilities during captivity. Geneva Conventions require it. Your captors violated law by denying you. We followed law by providing. We didn't do anything special, we just followed basic standards for prisoner treatment. You learn truth through experiencing standard treatment versus your previous abuse. You learn through contrast. That's powerful. Carry that truth. Spread it. Let reality defeat propaganda through testimony from people who experienced both lies and truth. Safe journey home. The women board the transport carrying bottles of shampoo and soap provided by Martinez, gifts for the journey, practical necessities, symbols of everything they learned. They smell clean. They smell like vanilla and coconut and American hygiene products. They smell completely different from how they smelled 24 hours ago. That transformation through scent teaches everything about the difference between humane treatment and abuse, between American standards and South Vietnamese denial, between propaganda lies and experiential truth. They leave changed. They leave smelling like Americans. They leave carrying the truth that scent reveals. They leave ready to testify that Americans don't smell like death. Americans smell like chocolate because Americans shower daily with scented products. That simple truth learned through the most basic human sense, contradicts propaganda more effectively than any argument could. They leave as witnesses, as teachers, as living proof that propaganda lies while sensory experience teaches truth. Today, the women who remember what Americans smell like. Nguyen Thi Lan is 76 years old now, living in Da Nang, retired from nursing but still teaching part-time. She lectures on cultural differences, propaganda analysis, and the power of sensory experience. April 22, 1972 is her primary example. She tells students, "I was taught that Americans smell disgusting due to poor hygiene. I believed this for years without questioning. Then I met Americans and they smelled like chocolate and vanilla. That sensory experience destroyed propaganda instantly. My nose taught truth that contradicted years of lies. I learned Americans maintain high hygiene standards and use scented products routinely. I learned American culture values cleanliness enough to maintain it even in war conditions. I learned propaganda lied about physical characteristics to dehumanize enemies, all from smell, all from scent, all from the simplest sensory experience. Then Americans gave us soap and shampoo. We showered with products Americans use. We smelled like Americans smell after using same products. We learned that American smell isn't natural, it's cultural, it comes from products and practices and priorities Americans maintain. We experienced American hygiene culture directly by using American products. That experience taught more than any explanation could. We smelled ourselves smelling like vanilla, and we understood completely why Americans smell how they smell. Direct experience, sensory learning, truth through smell. I teach students now. Propaganda often attacks enemy physical characteristics to trigger disgust and dehumanization. Claims about smell, appearance, hygiene, anything that can make enemies seem repulsive and less human. But physical lies fail when you encounter actual people. Your senses teach truth. Your nose tells you if someone smells bad or good. Physical evidence defeats physical propaganda. I learned this through smelling Americans who smelled like chocolate instead of death. I teach this now. Sensory truth defeats propaganda lies. Experience defeats indoctrination. Smell teaches character. Multiple women teach similar lessons across Vietnam. Hoa teaches propaganda analysis in Hanoi, emphasizing how physical lies about enemies fail upon contact. Mai teaches cultural studies in Ho Chi Minh City, using American hygiene practices as example of cultural differences. Huang teaches nursing in Hue, emphasizing importance of hygiene facilities for prisoners, all carrying same truth learned through smell, all testifying that Americans smell good because Americans maintain hygiene, all spreading reality that defeats propaganda. 53 years of testimony, thousands of students taught, truth spreading through education that propaganda lied while experience taught reality, American character revealed through scent, hygiene standards demonstrated through soap, culture explained through shampoo, everything learned from smelling chocolate where propaganda promised rot. The numbers, April 22nd, 1972, 14. North Vietnamese women. POWs processed 8 months average captivity without soap or hygiene facilities. 0 women expected Americans to smell. Pleasant. 14 women shocked by American scent hours until hot showers with scented products. 3. Complete reversal of expectations about American hygiene. 100%. Immediate sensory impacts. Confusion about chocolate vanilla scent. Prompting questions, recognition that American hygiene standards exceed Vietnamese expectations. Understanding that scent comes from products, not nature. Learning through contrast between prisoner smell and soldier smell. Experiencing American hygiene culture directly through product use. Smelling like Americans after using American products. Long-term impact. 53 years of testimony about sensory propaganda. Defeat. Multiple women teaching about cultural hygiene differences, thousands of students learning that physical propaganda fails upon contact truth, spreading that Americans maintain high hygiene standards, evidence that sensory experience defeats propaganda effectively. 14 women, 1 transport door opening, 1 marine smelling like chocolate, complete contradiction of propaganda through scent, hours of processing while smelling clean Americans, 1 shower with vanilla shampoo teaching American culture directly, complete transformation through soap and hot water, truth learned through the most basic sense, revealing character through contrast, propaganda promised rot, reality delivered chocolate, teaching said slovenly, experience proved meticulous, lies claimed disgusting, truth showed pleasant, expectations met sensory evidence and collapsed completely, smell taught everything propaganda tried to hide, clean soldiers, scented products, daily showers, military standards, cultural priorities, American hygiene, everything revealed through smell, everything taught through scent, everything learned from chocolate instead of death, everything contradicted through vanilla instead of rot, propaganda defeated by nose, lies exposed by scent, truth taught by soap, character revealed by shampoo, Americans smelling like Americans, destroying years of dehumanization through simple daily hygiene, maintained as routine, everything learned from smell, everything taught through scent, everything forever.